Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are exploring something so incredibly fundamental to our existence that it literally shaped human survival. I'm talking about stories. We're going to be looking at the Phi Theta Kappa Honors Program Guide, starting off with Dr. Susan Edwards' core essay on the sheer power of stories. And then, we're going to take a really deep dive into Theme 6, which focuses on persistence, sorrow, and ultimately healing. I gotta tell you, I was absolutely amazed by how this material totally shifts our perspective on human history. Okay, let's dive into this together. Right out of the gate, Dr. Susan Edwards hits us with this massive, paradigm-shifting claim from author Lisa Cron. I mean, think about it. Opposable thumbs are practically the textbook definition of our evolutionary advantage, right? They're what let us build tools, spark fires, and physically grasp the world around us. But this perspective flips the script completely. It argues that storytelling isn't just some campfire entertainment. It is, quite literally, an evolutionary survival tool.
And that brings us to a really fascinating question. If thumbs gave us the physical grip to hang on to our tools and our weapons, what exactly do stories tell us to hang onto? As we move through this explainer today, we're going to journey from the broad, ancient mechanics of narrative all the way down to the deeply intimate reality of human resilience. We're going to figure out exactly what it is we are holding on to.
Section 1. The Power of Stories. Throughout human history, ancient cultures, even those separated by thousands of miles, used these massive, grand myths to make sense of life. Whether it was the idea of a cosmic egg or a universal great flood, sharing these sweeping narratives is what helped our ancestors figure out their place in the universe.
Section 2. The Neuroscience of Narrative. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that the power of a story isn't just cultural. It is profoundly physiological. It physically affects us. Get this, the effects of storytelling are so tangible that they can actually extend our lives. Experts over at the Yale University School of Public Health looked into how reading impacts human longevity, and they found that regularly getting lost in narratives can increase your lifespan by up to 23%. 23%. So yeah, being a bookworm, it's basically a real-world survival tactic.
And the neuroscience totally backs this up. When we connect with characters, our brain chemistry literally changes. It stimulates dopamine, which of course boosts our learning and motivation. By stepping into someone else's shoes through a story, we actively build our capacity for empathy. Plus, as author Jonathan Gottschall points out, slipping into that magical place of imagination actively makes us feel less lonely. It pulls us right out of the everyday grind. Okay, so how do you actually build a story that hijacks our brain chemistry like that? Well, Pixar has this brilliant, highly recognizable framework outlined by journalist Brian G. Peters. For a story to really hook us, it needs to hit 6 specific marks. First, it's got to be universal. Second, it needs a crystal clear structure and purpose. Third, and this is big, give us a character to root for. We love an underdog. Next, appeal to our absolute deepest emotions. Throw in a curveball that's surprising and unexpected. And finally, just keep the whole thing simple and focused.
But here's the darker side of this. What happens when our stories are taken away from us, or when the narrative we're living is somehow broken? Author Francesca Lia Block offers an incredibly powerful way to look at this. She points out that the word destroy can literally be read as de-story, as in having your personal narrative completely removed or invalidated. On the flip side, to restore is to restore. Telling your own truth sets you free. It repairs that broken dignity.
Section 3, Navigating Sorrow and Loss. This leads us right into Theme 6 from our source material. Think about the COVID-19 pandemic. It forced this massive global mind shift. We all realized that to navigate such immense loss, we actively have to rewrite our narratives so they include healing.
And part of navigating that sorrow is realizing that different cultures process the narrative of grief in totally different ways. In the West, we often use obituaries, right? We lay out this detailed story of a person's life and their accomplishments to comfort the people left behind. But other cultures take the exact opposite route. In parts of Australia, India, Africa, and Siberia, it is actually a cultural taboo to speak the name of the dead during mourning. The idea there is that the deceased spirit needs to transition safely to the spirit world, and hearing their name might confuse them into returning. It's just a completely different, deeply meaningful way of honoring the end of a narrative.
So how does all this translate into actionable healing? Well, researchers Charlotte Selberg, Martin Victorelius, and Camila Wig mapped out a really distinct cycle. If you want to build resilience, first you absolutely have to identify your own personal needs,
Then you've got to care for yourself. Only after doing that can you bridge your insights into action and actually benefit society. It's a profound but simple takeaway. We literally cannot help others until we've taken the time to care for ourselves first.
Section 4. Healing through appreciative inquiry. Let's look at how we systematically apply this healing to organizations or teams. There's a fascinating leadership mechanism in the text for moving straight from sorrow into active resilience.
So, the crucial point is this concept called appreciative inquiry. It is such an invaluable leadership tool. Instead of dissecting every single problem, every trauma, or every barrier in your way, appreciative inquiry flips the script. It explores the effective, positive elements of a situation. You essentially lean on the good stuff to fuel your growth. By constantly focusing on the good choices that were made, it builds incredible teamwork and helps people bounce back from setbacks way faster.
Section 5. Building resilience through failure. This really shifts our whole narrative about what failure actually is. Tools like appreciative inquiry prove that repeated setbacks aren't the end of your story. They are just plot points in a much bigger, triumphant narrative. Psychologist Carol Dweck's research shows us that people who see obstacles as temporary are way more likely to succeed. Look at these heavy hitters. Abraham Lincoln faced failure after failure before becoming president. Oprah Winfrey overcame extreme poverty and assault to literally reinvent the talk show format. Wilma Minkler pushed through intense gender discrimination to become the first female principal chief of the Cherokee Nation. And Michael Jordan? He missed over 9,000 shots in his career, including 26 game winners, and still went down as one of the greatest athletes of all time. And this brilliantly illustrates the core of Carol Dweck's research. Failure is a great teacher. Not a single one of the icons we just talked about let failure be the final sentence in their biography. They crafted brand new narratives by leaning hard into resilience. They viewed their challenges as something they could actually tackle, rather than letting those obstacles de-story them. Section 6. Writing your resilient story. And that brings us to the emotional climax here, the ultimate power of stories. Our personal narratives of loss and sacrifice don't just heal us today. They literally become the fuel for tomorrow.
Researcher Janet Rocha studied this exact phenomenon. She found that family stories of past loss, healing, and persistence act as pedagogies of sacrifice. When we pass these narratives down around the dinner table, they act as a vital human resource. They ignite passion in the next generation and give them the resilience they need to push through everyday obstacles or even systemic oppression. Our stories of survival quite literally become the survival tools for our kids.
We've seen how stories shaped our evolution, how they rewire our brain chemistry, and how they guide us through the darkest moments of sorrow straight into healing. So I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought today. Take a second and think about the narrative you are crafting with your own life right now. What story of resilience will you write?